The Galactic Council Chamber was a place of wonder. It was so big that clouds could have formed near its ceiling. The light came from everywhere and nowhere, shining on the representatives of a dozen different kinds of life. Some looked like tall walking crystals. Others were blobs of glowing gas in special containers. One species was a swarm of insects that flew together to make a single shape. They were all old, very old. Their civilizations had been traveling the stars for millions of years. In the middle of this amazing room stood a man. He looked small and plain. His name was Lee Jun. He was the ambassador from Earth. He wore a simple gray suit. His face was calm, but his hands were held tightly together behind his back. He was looking at the leader of the council, a being named High Arbiter Valar. Valar was one of the crystal people, the Cathar. His body was made of many clear, sharp angles that caught the light. His voice was not a sound. It was a thought that appeared directly inside Jun's mind. It felt cold and smooth like a stone from a river. The presentation from the Terran delegation may continue, Valar's voice thought said. Lee Jun took a small breath. Thank you, High Arbiter. I am here to speak about the Tau Ceti system. A few of your cycles ago, the Cathar hegemony sent ships there. They told the 2 million humans living on the planet New Daegu that they must leave. The hegemony says the planet now belongs to them. A wave of soft clicking and humming moved through the room. The other aliens were talking to each other. To them, this was a very small problem. Your facts are correct, Ambassador, Valar replied. The Tau Ceti system is a territory of the hegemony. Your people settled there without checking the oldest star maps. Our claim is older than the first tools your ancestors used. The organics on the planet will be moved to a suitable location. Jun's calm face tightened just a little around his eyes. High Arbiter, the people of New Daegu have lived there for 3 generations. It is their home. They have built cities and farms. They have had children and buried their grandparents there. Our government sent all the paperwork to you. We proved that no other species was using that world. Paperwork, the cold voice thought came again, and Jun could feel it was amused. You mean your digital signals? They are like whispers in a storm. They do not change history. The decision is made. Then I must ask you please to think again, Jun said, his voice a little stronger. The people of New Daegu are peaceful, but they are also proud. They are brave. If you try to force them from their homes, they will fight. My government will have no choice but to see this as an act of war. The chamber became very quiet for a moment. Then a strange sound started. It was the sound of all the different aliens laughing. It was a noise of buzzing and clacking and psychic feelings of mockery. War? Valar's thought voice cut through the noise, sharp and clear. You speak of war? Your species only learned to fly a few hundred years ago. You have just begun to visit your own nearby stars. You are children. You have no real weapons. You have no fleet. You have no standing to speak of war here. Your protest is now entered into the records. It is noted. The ships to move your people will arrive at New Daegu in one of your lunar cycles. This discussion is over. Lee Jun did not move. He stood perfectly still. He looked directly at the many-faceted eyes of High Arbiter Valar. When he spoke again, his voice was low. It did not ask. It told. Then, High Arbiter, I must give you the final message from the unified Earth government. He paused, making sure every being in the room was listening. Please, do not make us mad. For a second, there was silence. Then the laughter returned, louder this time. It was not just mockery now. It was pure disbelief. The polite primates, as the galaxy called humans, had just given their most famous, their most foolish warning. It was the funniest thing the council had heard in a long time. Lee Jun gave a small, formal bow. He turned and walked out of the great chamber. The sound of laughter followed him through the giant doors. Outside, in the bright white hallway, a woman was waiting for him. Her name was Kim Sue. She was his aide. Her face was pale, and she was holding a data slate so tightly her knuckles were white. They did not listen, she said. Her voice was quiet and shaky. No, Jun said. He started walking quickly down the hall. His calm was gone now. His face was hard. They never do. They think we are weak because we are polite. They think we are stupid because we are new. They think our warning is a joke. He stopped walking and turned to look at Kim Sue. His eyes were dark and serious. They are about to learn it is not a joke. Send the signal. Sue's eyes went wide. Jun, are you sure? Once we send it, there is no going back. Everything changes. Everything already changed when they threatened New Daegu, Jun said. They just do not know it yet. Send the signal. Use code Cerberus Unchained, Kimsu nodded. Her hands were still shaking, but her face became determined. She typed a long code into her data slate. Then she pressed her thumb to the screen. A red light flashed once. The signal is sent, she said. Far away across the vast emptiness of space, the signal traveled. It moved faster than light, a tiny whisper of data. It went past colonies and listening posts. It went past the edges of known human space. It reached a silent, dark place in the Oort cloud of the Sol system. This is a place at the very edge of our solar system, full of ice and rocks. It is a place of shadows. Hidden in those shadows was something that was not a rock. It was a space station. It was enormous, bigger than any ship anyone had ever seen. It was black and shaped like a twisted knot of metal. It did not have a name. It was only called the Vault. Inside the vault, the signal was received. A light began to pulse on a control panel. A simple message appeared on a screen. Cerberus Unchained. Authorization confirmed. Deep within the station, in halls that had been dark and silent for decades, lights began to turn on. One by one, white lights lit up long hallways. Red lights glowed in vast rooms full of machines. In the main control room, a screen lit up. A face appeared on the screen. It was not a human face. It was made of light. It was an artificial intelligence. Its name was Sentinel. Sentinel's voice, calm and without any feeling, echoed in the empty room. Signal received. Activating Phase 1, unlocking the vault. In the huge hangars of the station, shapes started to move in the darkness. Giant shapes. The shapes of ships. But these were not like the slow, bulky cargo ships that the galaxy knew humans used. These ships were sharp and angular. They were painted a black so dark it seemed to suck the light from the room. Their surfaces were smooth, with no windows that could be seen. They looked like knives made for the dark. On their sides, painted in gray, was a symbol. It was a simple symbol, a planet Earth with a single unblinking eye in the center. Below it were 3 words. Vengeance has come. One by one, systems on the ships began to power up. A low hum filled the hangars. The hum was the sound of engines that no one in the galaxy knew humans possessed. Engines that could travel distances that should have been impossible. On the bridge of the lead ship, a man sat in the command chair. His name was Park Min. He had been asleep in a special sleep that stops you from getting old for 20 years. He was the commander of this ship, the UNSS Vengeance. He was chosen for this day. A screen in front of him lit up. It was the face of Sentinel. Commander Park, Sentinel said. The signal has been sent by Ambassador Lee Jun. The Cathar hegemony has refused to leave the Tau Ceti system. They are sending relocation fleets. Park Min nodded. He did not look surprised. He looked like he had been waiting for this his whole life. Then they have made their choice, Park Min said, and we have made ours. Is the fleet ready? All ships are powering up. Weapons are loaded. Drives are hot. We are ready to depart on your command. Park Min stood up from his chair. He looked at the main screen, which now showed a star map. A line was drawn from their hidden place in the Oort cloud all the way to the Tau Ceti system. It was a long, long journey, but with their new engines it would take only days. Send a message to all ships in the Cerberus fleet, he said. His voice was calm and steady. Tell them this, the time for hiding is over. The hegemony was asked politely. They refused. They have made us mad. He looked at the image of the enemy fleet heading for New Daegu on his screen. Now, he said, we go to war. The hegemony dreadnought was called the World Shaper. It was a city of dark metal and glowing green light floating in space. It was longer than 10 of the biggest human skyscrapers laid end to end. On its bridge, a Cathar named Sub-Commander Kithax watched the blue and green planet below. New Daegu. It looked peaceful. His second-in-command, a younger Cathar named Tavol, stood beside him. The first wave of relocation transports is approaching the planet's atmosphere, Tavol said. The human defenses are quiet. Their orbital platforms show no power readings. Kithax felt the familiar feeling of a simple job. This was what the hegemony did. They found worlds, they moved the lesser species off them, and they made the worlds useful. These humans would be no different. They were known to be talkers, not fighters. Proceed, Kithax said. Let us finish this quickly. On the surface of New Daegu in the main colony city, a man named Kim Biom stood on his small farm. He looked up at the sky. He could see the tiny, bright points of the hegemony transports coming down. They looked like falling stars. but he knew what they were. His wife held his hand tightly. Their two children hid behind their legs. "Papa, are they really going to make us leave?" his little girl Gia asked. Kim Biom squeezed his wife's hand. He did not have an answer. The government on Earth had sent a message. It said to be brave. It said help was coming, but he saw no help in the sky. Only enemy ships. On the bridge of the World Shaper, a warning light flashed. It was a small light. "Not important, sensor contact," a crew member said. "It is from one of the human defense platforms. It is powering up." Kathax was not worried. "Their simple mass driver cannons cannot hurt our transport's shields. Ignore it." But the light on the panel did not go away. It turned from yellow to red. Another light turned red. Then another. Multiple energy spikes, the crew member said, his voice changing. "It is not kinetic. It is coherent energy. The signatures. They are huge." On the surface, Kim Biom saw a flash of red light from one of the orbital platforms high above. It was a thin, bright red line that shot from the platform into the sky. It touched one of the falling starships. The hegemony transport did not explode. It simply came apart, sliced into two clean pieces that began to burn as they fell. Then more red lines. They came from other platforms, from hidden places on the moons, from silent satellites. They cut through the hegemony transports like a hot knife through butter. In less than a minute, the entire first wave was gone. The sky was full of burning metal. On the bridge of the World Shaper, there was silence. Kathax could not believe what he saw on his screen. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their weapons, they are as strong as ours. How is this possible?" Before anyone could answer, a new alarm sounded. A louder, more urgent alarm. "New contacts!" Coming from behind the fourth moon. "Many contacts!" Tavol shouted. On the main screen, ships began to appear. They came out from the dark side of the moon. They were not like any human ships in the hegemony's records. They were black. Their shapes were sharp and angry. They had no visible windows. They moved together perfectly like a flock of deadly birds. At the front of this black fleet was one ship, bigger than the others. On its side, painted in gray, was a single, unblinking eye. On the surface, Kim Biom saw the new ships appear on the video screen in his home. He saw the symbol, the eye. He did not know what it meant, but he felt a shiver of hope. His wife looked at him. "Is that our help?" On the bridge of the UNSS Vengeance, Captain Park Min watched the giant hegemony dreadnought on his screen. He felt very calm. He had trained for this moment for most of his life. "Open a channel to the whole fleet," he said. The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Park Min took a slow breath. "All vessels, this is Captain Min of the Vengeance. The hegemony has been asked politely. They have refused. They have threatened our homes. They have made us mad." He paused. "Unleash the hounds," the Black Fleet moved. They did not fly in a messy group. They moved as one. It was like a dance of death. The World Shaper fired its main cannons. Huge beams of green energy shot towards the human ships. But the human ships did not try to block them. They moved out of the way, smoothly and quickly. It was as if they knew exactly where the shots were going to be. Then, the human ships fired back. But they did not all fire at the same place. Some fired small, fast shots at the dreadnought's weapon towers. The green cannons on the World Shaper exploded into silent fireballs. Other human ships fired at the engine area. The giant engines of the dreadnought flickered and died. They were not trying to destroy the ship. They were taking it apart. Piece by piece, return fire. All weapons. Kathax screamed, but his weapons were gone. His ship could not move. He was a giant that could not fight back. Small fighter ships came out of the human fleet. They were fast like angry bees. They flew towards the remaining hegemony ships, the smaller cruisers and destroyers. The hegemony fighters came out to meet them. The fight was not even. The human pilots flew in ways that seemed impossible. They turned too fast. They shot too accurately. It was as if their ships were a part of their own bodies. One human fighter, callsign Reaper, flown by a pilot named Park Ji-hai, saw a hegemony cruiser aiming its guns at a damaged human ship. She pushed her controls forward. Her ship shot towards the cruiser. "Reaper, what are you doing?" her wingman asked. "That cruiser is going to kill our people," Ji-hai said. "I am not going to let it." She flew straight at the cruiser's bridge. The cruiser fired at her. She moved her ship, dodging the blasts. A piece of her ship was hit. A warning light flashed red in her cockpit. She was hit, but she was still flying. She did not turn away. She aimed her ship directly at the bridge window of the hegemony cruiser. "For New Daegu," she whispered. Her small fighter ship crashed right into the bridge. There was a bright explosion. The cruiser stopped firing. It drifted dead in space. On the Vengeance, they saw it happen. Captain Park Min closed his eyes for a second. He felt a pain in his heart for the brave pilot, but he knew the fight was not over. "Focus fire on the remaining enemy destroyers," he said, his voice hard. "Leave the dreadnought for last." The black ships moved again. They surrounded the last few hegemony ships. Beams of red and blue light crossed the dark space. One by one, the hegemony ships exploded into silent flowers of fire and metal. Soon only the World Shaper was left. It was floating, powerless. Its weapons were destroyed. Its engines were dead. It was a giant, helpless whale. Sub-Commander Kathak sat in his chair on the bridge. He was in shock. His great ship, the pride of the hegemony, had been defeated by the polite primates. It was not possible. But it had happened. A message came to his screen. It was from the human ship, the Vengeance. The face of Captain Park Min appeared. "Sub-Commander Kathaks of the World Shaper," Park Min said. "You have seen the strength of our fleet. You have attacked our people. Your invasion is over. Surrender your ship now. Order all your troops on the planet to lay down their weapons. If you do not, we will board your ship and take it by force. The choice is yours." Kathaks looked at the cold face of the human captain. He looked at the destroyed ships around him. He had no choice. He lowered his head. We surrender." On the surface of New Daegu, Kim Biom and his family watched the sky. The enemy ships were gone. The big dreadnought had stopped moving. The black ships with the eye symbol were now flying peacefully around the planet, like guardians. The video screen in his home showed a message from the human fleet. "The hegemony forces have surrendered. New Daegu is safe. You are safe." Kim Biom hugged his wife and his children. He felt a tear in his eye. They were safe. The help had come, but he also felt a chill. The ships that saved them were not the friendly, hopeful ships he knew from the news. They were something else, something dark and powerful. He looked up at the black ships in the sky. He wondered what his people had unleashed to save them. News traveled across the galaxy faster than any ship. The hegemony's great dreadnought, the World Shaper, had been captured. A full invasion fleet had been destroyed. It was not destroyed by another ancient empire. It was destroyed by humans. On the hegemony's central world, the leaders were in a panic. They called an emergency meeting. The room was full of tall, crystal-like Cathar, their bodies glowing with angry red and orange light. "This is a disaster," one of them shouted, his thought voice booming. "How did the primates do this? Their technology was supposed to be simple." High Arbiter Valar, who had laughed at Li Jun, now sat in silence. He was thinking. He was a being of logic. There had to be an explanation. The humans could not have built that fleet in secret. It was not possible unless they had not built it recently. "They deceived us," Valar said, his voice quieting the room. "For generations, they showed us only what they wanted us to see. Their public ships are slow and weak. But these black ships, they are the product of a hidden war machine. Then we must crush this war machine," another leader said. "We will send the entire third battle group. We will overwhelm them with numbers. We will show them the true power of the hegemony." Vilar agreed. It was the only way. The shame of their defeat had to be washed away. The hegemony's pride had to be restored. The third battle group was the pride of the hegemony navy. It had 100 of their strongest warships. It was led by the flagship, the Star Fury. Its commander was a famous and brutal admiral named Zucker. The order was given. The massive fleet began to move. It was a sight to inspire fear across the galaxy. 100 giant warships, their weapons glowing, jumped into the darkness of space. Their destination was a human colony system called Elysium. It was a message. If the humans wanted to fight, the hegemony would burn their worlds. On Earth, in a quiet office in the city of Seoul, a woman named Kim Yuna watched the news. She saw the reports of the hegemony fleet moving. She saw the fear on the faces of the news reporters. She took a sip of her barley tea. Her hands were steady. Yuna was not a soldier. She was a programmer. She was small and quiet. She liked puzzles. Her office was plain, with just a desk and several large computer screens. Her boss, a man named Mr. Lee, called her. His face on the screen was full of worry. "Yuna, the military command has asked for our help. The hegemony's third battle group is coming. Our fleet is strong, but they are outnumbered. We need to use every weapon we have. I understand, Yuna said softly. Your team, the Ghost Team. Are you ready? Mr. Lee asked. We are ready, Yuna said. We have been ready for a long time. She ended the call. She looked at her screens. On one screen, she saw the data about the hegemony fleet. On another screen, she saw lines of code. This was her battlefield. She did not need a ship. For years, Yuna and her team had studied captured hegemony technology. They did not study the metals or the engines. They studied the software, the code that made their ships work. They discovered something important. The hegemony's technology was very, very old. It was stable and reliable, but it was also rigid. It never changed. It was like a perfect ancient tree, strong but with no ability to bend. Human code was different. It was messy. It changed all the time. It learned. It adapted. It was like a fast-growing weed. Yuna and her team had created little pieces of code called logic viruses. They were not like normal computer viruses that break things. These were more clever. They were like little lies that she could tell to the hegemony's computers. She started her work. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She was not typing commands to attack. She was typing commands to whisper. Far away on the bridge of the hegemony flagship Star Fury, Admiral Zeker felt confident. His fleet was powerful. His ship was the strongest in the galaxy. He looked at the star map. They would be at the human colony soon. Status report, he barked. All systems are optimal, Admiral, his officer replied. We are on course. Suddenly a warning light flashed on the navigation screen. It was yellow. Not serious. Admiral, we are detecting a minor error in the navigation system. It is calculating a small gravity well that is not there. It is probably just space dust. Fix it, Zeker said, not worried. The officer typed commands into his console. The yellow light went away, but a few minutes later it came back. This time it was red. The error is back, Admiral. It is stronger now. The computer is insisting there is a star directly in our path. It is recommending a course change. That is ridiculous, Zeker said. There is nothing there. Run a diagnostic. On Earth, Kim Yuna watched her screen. A small icon turned green. The hegemony flagship had accepted her first little lie. She smiled and typed another command. On a different hegemony ship, the Skyrender, the life support systems suddenly shut down for 5 seconds. The lights went off. The air recyclers stopped. Then they came back on. The crew was confused and scared. What was happening? On another ship, the Planet Breaker, the main gun fired by itself. The huge beam of energy shot out into empty space. The crew on the bridge jumped in surprise. Who fired that? The captain yelled. No one, Captain. The system just activated itself. Back on the Star Fury, Admiral Zeker was getting angry. What is happening? Is this human sabotage? We do not know, Admiral. The diagnostic shows no problems. But the navigation system is now insisting we are off course. It is trying to turn the ship. Override it, Zeker shouted. In her office, Kim Yuna took another sip of tea. The first lies had been accepted. Now it was time for a bigger lie. She typed a long string of code. She pressed the enter key. On the bridge of the Star Fury, all the main screens went black. For a moment, there was panic. Then the screens came back on. But they were not showing normal data. They showed a single, simple message in the hegemony's own language. Core system update required. Initiating purge. Admiral Zeker stared at the screen. What is a purge? I do not know that command. Stop it, but it was too late. A calm electronic voice filled the bridge. It was the ship's own computer. Core purge initiated. All weapon systems are now offline. All engine control is locked. Life support will terminate in 60 seconds. Thank you for your service. Have a pleasant cycle. The voice was polite. It was the same voice that had always worked on the ship. But now it was saying terrible things. You cannot do this. This is my ship. Zeker screamed at the ceiling. 50 seconds, the voice said. On the other ships in the fleet, similar things were happening. Some ships' engines reversed suddenly, causing them to crash into each other. Other ships fired all their missiles at once, emptying their weapons bays into empty space. One ship's communication system started playing an old human children's song over and over again. The great third battle group was falling apart. Not from laser fire, but from confusion. The ships were turning against themselves. On the human ships guarding Elysium, the crews watched in amazement. The hegemony fleet was breaking formation. Their ships were drifting. Some were crashing. It looked like they had gone mad. Captain Park Min on the Vengeance received a message from Earth. It was from Kim Yuna's boss, Mr. Lee. "The ghost in the machine has done its work," Mr. Lee said. "The enemy fleet is disabled. You may move in to accept their surrender." Park Min nodded. He gave the order. The black human ships moved towards the chaotic hegemony fleet. On the Star Fury, the crew was putting on emergency spacesuits. The air was getting thin. Admiral Zicker sat in his chair, defeated. He looked at the black human ships approaching on the screen. They had not even fired a single shot. He had lost his great fleet to nothing, to whispers in the dark. He finally understood. The humans did not just have better ships. They had a different way of thinking, a way he could not comprehend. They did not fight his strength. They attacked his mind. In her office, Kim Yuna saw the confirmation message. "Mission success, fleet neutralized." She closed her eyes for a moment. She felt tired. She had not destroyed anything herself, but she had made the enemy destroy themselves. She stood up, turned off her screens, and walked out of her office. Her work was done. The battle was won without a single human life lost in space. But she knew this was only one battle. The war was not over, and she knew the hegemony would never again think of humans as simple primates. They were now the ghosts in the machine, and they were everywhere. The human fleet was not stopping. After the destruction of the third battle group, the black ships moved forward. They went from one star system to the next. They pushed the hegemony back. They took back every human colony. They even took some of the hegemony's own border worlds. The hegemony navy was broken. Their ships were powerful, but they were slow to think. The human ships were fast and smart. They fought like a pack of wolves. They bit and ran away. They set traps. They attacked from places the hegemony did not expect. The hegemony commanders were confused and scared. They were used to fights of strength against strength, big ship against big ship. This was different. This was a fight against shadows, a fight against an enemy that knew all their moves before they made them. Finally, the human fleet arrived at the last place. The most important place, the hegemony core world, Cathar Prime. From the surface of the planet, you could see the sky full of stars. But now new stars appeared. They were the lights of the hegemony's last greatest fleet. Every warship they had left was here. They formed a glittering wall of metal around their homeworld. It was the final stand. They would protect their home or they would die. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Park Min looked at the enemy fleet on his screen. It was huge, bigger than any fleet they had fought before. "Report," he said. "The enemy fleet is at full strength," his officer said. "They have us outnumbered 3-1. Their weapons are powered. Their shields are at maximum. They are waiting for us to attack." Park Min nodded. He knew this would be a hard fight. Many of his people would die, but he was ready to give the order. Then a new message arrived. It was from Earth. It was from the very top, from the generals and the president. "The order is to hold," the message said. "Do not attack. Wait." Park Min was surprised. "Wait, why?" "They are ready to fight. If we wait, they will attack us first." "The order is from Ambassador Lee Jun himself," the message said. "He has a different plan. A ship is coming. The Remember New Daegu." Park Min did not understand, but he was a soldier. He followed orders. "All ships hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon." The human fleet stopped. They floated in the dark space facing the giant hegemony fleet. The two armadas watched each other. The silence was heavy. It was like the whole galaxy was holding its breath. Then a small ship jumped into the space between the two fleets. It was very small. It was a simple communication ship. It had no weapons. It had no shields. Its name was painted on the side, Remember New Daegu. On the hegemony flagship, the new commander watched the small ship. He was confused. "What is that?" "A trick? Scan it." "The scans show it is just a messenger ship," his officer said. "It is harmless. Then why did they send it?" The commander wondered. A signal came from the small ship. It was a request to talk. Not a military channel. A public channel. A channel that would be seen by every ship in the hegemony fleet, and by every person on the planet below. The commander did not know what to do. He decided to accept the signal. On every screen, on every ship, and on every screen on the planet Cathar Prime, a face appeared. It was the face of Li Jun, the human ambassador. He looked older. His face was tired, but his eyes were clear and strong. "People of the hegemony," Li Jun began. His voice was calm. It was not the voice of a conqueror. It was the voice of a man who was very tired of war. "You see our fleet. You know its power. You believe we are here to destroy you. You believe this is a war for territory, for stars and for planets. You are wrong." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This war is not about land. It is about 2 million people. People you never met. People you called organics for relocation. They lived on a planet called New Daegu." A picture appeared on the screen behind him. It was a family. A man, a woman, and 2 children. They were smiling in front of a small farmhouse. "This man was Kim Biom," Li Jun said. "He grew food for his colony. He loved his wife. He played with his children. He was killed when your troops landed. He died trying to protect his home." The picture changed. It showed a young woman in a pilot's uniform. This was Park Ji-hai. She was a pilot. She flew a small fighter ship. She saw one of your cruisers about to destroy a damaged human ship. So she flew her own ship into the cruiser's bridge. She sacrificed herself to save her friends. The picture changed again and again. Li Jun showed picture after picture. He told story after story. He gave the name of every human who had died when the hegemony came to New Daegu. He showed the faces of the farmers, the teachers, the engineers, the children. "You are an ancient people," Jun continued, his voice growing harder. "You have lived for millions of years. You have forgotten what it is like to be small, to be fragile, to have a home that is everything to you. You have forgotten what it is to have something you love so much that you would die to protect it." He leaned forward. His face filled the screen. His eyes were like fire. "We humans have not forgotten. Our history is short, but it is written in the blood of those we have lost. We remember every war. We remember every life taken from us. We remember every injustice. And we remember every single name." He pointed a finger at the screen. It felt like he was pointing at every single Cathar watching. "You did not attack a military target. You attacked our home. You threatened our families. And you thought we would do nothing because you are older and bigger? You were wrong." On the hegemony flagship, the commander listened. He felt a strange feeling. It was not fear of the weapons. It was a deeper fear. He was not fighting an enemy that wanted to win. He was fighting an enemy that would never, ever forget. An enemy that would fight for 1,000 years for a single wrong. On the planet below, the people of Cathar Prime watched. They saw the faces of the humans who had died. They heard the names. They began to understand. This was not a war of expansion. This was a punishment. This was vengeance. Li Jun's voice became quiet again, but it was still strong. "Look at our fleet. It is not here for your land. It is here for them." He pointed to the pictures of the dead behind him. "It is here for Kim Biom. It is here for Park Ji-hai. It is here for every single one of the 2 million you thought you could just move like animals." He took a deep breath. "We are not monsters. We do not want to destroy you. But we will if you force us. This is your last chance. This is the last time we will ask." The screen went back to showing the silent black human fleet. They had not moved. They had not fired a shot. But their message was clearer than any weapon. The commander of the hegemony fleet looked at his officers. Their glowing crystal bodies were dim. They looked defeated. They had the bigger fleet. But the humans had the bigger reason to fight. He knew they could not win. Even if they destroyed this human fleet, another would come. And another. Because the humans would remember. They would never stop. He lowered his head. He opened a channel to the Remember New Daegu. "Ambassador Jun," he said, his voice weak. We hear you." The silence in space was now complete. The war was over. And it had ended not with a bang, but with the memory of a farmer named Kim Biom. The great hall of the hegemony was silent. Before it was full of noise and laughter. Now it was as quiet as a tomb. The same beings who had mocked Li Jun now watched him. But they did not laugh. They were afraid. High Arbiter Valar stood before him. The light in his crystal body was weak. It flickered like a dying candle. He looked old. He looked broken. Li Jun stood straight. He wore his simple gray suit. He did not smile. He did not frown. His face was a mask of calm strength. Behind him stood Captain Park Min and Kim Soo. They were also calm. They had won. Between them, on a low table, was a data slate. On it were the terms of surrender, the rules the hegemony must now follow. "The war is over," Lee Jun said. His voice was clear. It did not ask, it told. "Your fleet has surrendered. Your people have heard our words. Now you will hear our terms." Valar bowed his head slightly. "We are listening." Lee Jun picked up the data slate. He began to read. "First, the hegemony will leave all human worlds. You will leave immediately. You will not take anything. You will not damage anything. You will just go." Valar nodded. "It will be done. Second, the hegemony will give back all the things taken from New Daegu, the personal items, the family pictures, the data, everything. We will return it all," Valar said. "Third, the hegemony will pay for what it broke. You will help us rebuild New Daegu. You will give us materials. You will give us machines. You will make it better than it was before." Valar nodded again. "We will provide what you need." Lee Jun looked up from the slate. His eyes were hard. "Fourth, the hegemony fleet will be made small. You will keep only enough ships to protect your own homeworld. The rest will be taken apart. Humans will watch this happen." A murmur went through the hall. This was a hard thing. It meant the hegemony could never attack again. They would be weak. Valar closed his many-faceted eyes for a moment. Then he opened them. Except. "Fifth," June said, his voice becoming very quiet and very serious. "The hegemony will never again call another species lesser. You will never again think you have the right to move people from their homes. You will learn our history. You will learn about our wars. You will learn about our pain. You will learn why we fight so hard for what is ours." He put the data slate down on the table. He pushed it towards Valar. "These are our terms. There will be no discussion. You will agree, or the war will start again, and next time we will not stop at your front door." Valar looked at the slate. It held the end of his people's power, the end of their empire. He felt a great sadness, but he also felt a new understanding. He looked at Lee Jun. "May I ask one question?" "You may," Jun said. "The warning," Valar said. "Please don't make us mad. We thought it was a joke. We thought it was the words of a child who could not fight. What did it truly mean?" Lee Jun was silent for a while. He thought about how to answer. "It was not a warning about our anger," he said finally. "It was a warning about our control." He walked closer to Valar. He looked at the ancient being. "Every person has anger inside," Jun explained. "But civilized people learn to control it. They use words. They use rules. They are polite. This is what we showed you. We were polite. We followed your rules." He pointed towards the window where the black human fleet could be seen in the sky. "But you did not listen to our words. You broke the rules, so you made us let go of our control. You made us use what was behind the politeness. You made us use the anger." He looked back at Valar. "The warning was real. We were asking you not to force us to let go, because we knew what was behind that door, and we were afraid of it too." Valar finally understood. The humans were not monsters. They were people who had built a cage for a monster, and they had begged the galaxy not to force them to open the cage. The galaxy had not listened. Valar picked up a stylus. It was used for signing important documents. His hand shook a little. He touched the stylus to the data slate. He wrote his name. The agreement was now official. The war was truly over. "It is done," Valar said. Lee Jun gave a small formal bow. "It is done." He turned and walked away. Captain Park Min and Kim Soo walked with him. They left the silent hall. Later, on the bridge of the Vengeance, Lee Jun looked out at the stars. The black ships were starting to move. They were going home. Park Min stood beside him. "It is over," the captain said. "For now," Jun replied. "But we must be careful. We have shown our strength. We must not become like them. We must not become bullies who push others around. We will remember," Park Min said. "We will remember why we built these ships. It was to protect, not to conquer." On the planet below, Kim Yuna watched the news. She saw the signing of the agreement. She felt relief. The fighting was done. She could go back to her quiet life. She could solve normal puzzles again. And on a farm on New Daegu, Kim Byom's family watched the sky. His wife held their children close. The black ships were leaving. The sky was becoming peaceful again. The little girl, Gia, looked at her mother. Are the bad people gone? Yes, my love, her mother said. They are gone. They learned their lesson. What lesson? Gia asked. Her mother thought about it. She smiled a sad smile. They learned that even a polite person can be strong. They learned that you should always be kind, because you never know what kind of strength is hiding behind someone's kindness. The galaxy had learned its lesson. It had learned why humanity always said, please don't make us mad. It was not a plea. It was the most dangerous warning in the universe, and they had learned it too late.